Hey there gang, Kawaii50 here with another Honkai Star Rail video, and look, I get it. It makes sense. You want your main DPS character to shine, so those Hypercarry teams are really pushed, and people really seem to like running Hypercarry teams. But if you've got a lot of DPS characters, did you know that there are a couple of DPS characters that work really well together? And that is what today's video is set up to highlight, because two of my main teams are built around dual DPS characters. I think it's a lot of fun. I love seeing the synergy with these characters, and overall it just gives me more reason to pull even more DPS characters. Acheron, I'm looking at you. Hopefully this video ends up helping you out. Maybe you have a dual DPS comp you haven't previously tried. Maybe you have a character you weren't sure about summoning for, but you got the other piece of the dual DPS comp, so you're like, yeah, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll get that taken care of. Or maybe you just enjoy seeing a different type of team get the spotlight. Well, regardless, please like, subscribe, share, comment, etc. if any of those things apply to you as we try to get to 10k subs by the end of the year. Alright, let's take a look at our first team comp, and one of my favorites. So this first comp we're checking out here is Jingliu paired with Blade, and I was super stoked when I pulled Blade because I would finally be able to run this. Now, how does this work? Well, if you look at Jingliu's talent, Crescent Transmigration, this consumes some of your allies' maximum HP to increase Jingliu's overall attack. This ends up hitting everybody on your team. Well, with Blade's talent, whenever he sustains damage or has his HP consumed, he gets one stack of charge. So you now don't necessarily need to focus on forcing your enemies to attack Blade. Jingliu, just by nature of consuming your ally's HP, is going to go ahead and consume Blade's HP, granting him a stack, and you will see Shuhu's gift pop up more often than not. This has actually honestly led to situations where previously if I was running Blade by himself, he might have died, but with Jingliu together, because Shuhu's gift is just triggering so much, he very rarely falls below half health. And if he does, well, Shuhu's gift is probably just about to get triggered to help replenish all of his health. It is a super interesting combination. You see me in the video running this with Ron May. I think Ron May is probably the best supporter you could run this whole team with. I know some people might consider Sparkle, but the team isn't as skill point heavy as you might have thought. Because Jingliu and Blade are entering specific states to enhance their basic attack or make their skill cost no skill points, this team is actually not super heavy on the skill point consumption. So you should be able to freely use things like Ron Mei's skill and Fu Xuan's skill to reduce everyone's damage to help keep the team alive. Now this next neat little pairing is one I've been using to delete bosses with impunity, and that pairing is that of Dr. Ratio and Topaz. So how do Dr. Ratio and Topaz work together? Well, Topaz's ability allows her to inflict enemies with proof of debt status from her skill. This increases the damage they take from follow-up attacks by 50%. This only takes effect on the most recent target it's applied to, or a random enemy can get inflicted with proof of debt. So this is super interesting, because since proof of debt is considered a debuff, that means it procs Dr. Ratio's talent Cogito Ergo Sum. When using his skill, he's got a 40% base chance of launching a follow-up against his target, but for each debuff, that follow-up chance increases by 20%. Because Topaz has already inflicted a debuff, that has upped Ratio's chance to hit the opponent with his follow-up attack. And if he hits with that follow-up attack, well, that target is just going to be taking additional damage, thanks to the effect Topaz is already giving them. With a combination of these two characters together, I rarely, if ever, see a situation where I don't have at least an 80% chance to hit with the follow-up attack with Dr. Ratio. Ratio is more often than not going to end up destroying those opponents. Now, when it comes to your other allies in my video, my Sparkle still needs a little bit more energy regen. But overall, I would definitely recommend Sparkle for this team. This team is entirely skill point hungry because you want to keep Topaz's debuff up at all times and use Dr. Ratio's skill whenever possible. Though if you ever have an opportunity where you only have one skill point and need to decide, use the skill point on Dr. Ratio rather than Topaz. It's just going to lead to overall far more damage. And now this last team right here is honestly my vote for the strongest team in the game. I wish I could show you video footage of me running this team, but I don't have either of these characters, so we are just going to have to live with the explanation. Please don't bully me. I didn't even think this was going to be a thing. I had failed to get Kafka. Please, 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 everything will be fine, because I'm at least going to tell you about this team. This is a team of Kafka and Black Swan. Kafka and Black Swan is absolutely ridiculous. It is entirely absurd. Now, why is this entirely absurd? Well, let me explain that to you. So Kafka's skill here is Caressing Moonlight. This deals lightning damage to a target and the enemies adjacent to it. If that enemy is currently under the effect of a dot, all dots currently based on that target will immediately produce 75% damage of their original damage. Now, when Black Swan and Kafka are pulled together, Kafka not only applies her own dot, but can use her skill as well as her ultimate to detonate all of those dots on the enemy, dealing a portion of those damage immediately. And what is considered as part of this damage? That is right, it is Black Swan's Arcana. So whenever Black Swan ends up attacking an opponent, she is able to inflict them with one stack of Arcana from her skill to the enemy and adjacent targets. This ends up reducing their defense. Receiving dot damage as well has a chance to inflict enemies with Arcana, and Arcana of course deals wind damage related to Black Swan's attack. This is absolutely crazy. Arcana can stack up to 50 times with Black Swan's talent max. So Kafka can not only pour on the damage and detonate some of those dots, but in detonating some of those dots, she is able to put on even more stacks of Black Swan's Arcana to do even more damage. It is an absolutely crazy match made in heaven. It kind of makes me wonder if the devs had considered this as something that was 100% going to happen if they paired these characters together. But regardless, if I had to pick a best team in Star Rail right now, it would be this combination. Black Swan and Kafka are absolutely insane. I wish I could run this team. I wish. But sadly, sometimes the gacha just doesn't work out that way. But if you happen to have both of these characters and you are not using them in a team together, you are absolutely missing out on one of the most fun ways to play Honkai Star Rail. And that's all I got for you for dual DPS comps right now. I know this ends up using a lot of 5 stars, but sometimes that's just the name of the game when we end up using these characters in combinations, end up making these videos. There is no guarantee right now that a 4-star is going to have this synergy with a 5-star, or if 2 4-stars are going to have this synergy together, but there is always a chance in the future. Let me know if you have another dual DPS comp you think deserves a spotlight down in the comments section below, and if there's enough, maybe I'll do another video on this. Either way, as you head down in the comments, be sure to check out the Discord, Patreon, and Ko-fi. I see a lot of people hopping in there, checking out the Star Rail channel, asking for help. Please, we are here to help. Everyone in the Discord is super friendly and chill. Swing on by, ask your questions, and we will do our best to help out any new or returning or veteran players in Honkai Star Rail. Anyways, gang, that's it for me, Kawaii50. Thank you all so much for watching this far into the video. I super appreciate it. And I'll see you all in the next one.